Hi, I'm Melanie from the sister writing duo Melanie Shawn, and welcome to the December 10th edition of our Vlogmas videos. Today is going to be a little bit of a different kind of video. It's going to be a story time video, which means I'm going to tell about something that happened in my life. This actually happened fairly recently, which was I, as an adult woman, was diagnosed with ADD. This is not something that I ever foresaw happening, but it has truly changed my life in many ways. So I'm going to split this video up into two parts. Today I'm going to talk about how I began to suspect back in October, which very recently, that I might have ADD. And then tomorrow I'm going to talk about the action that I took and the process of being diagnosed and ultimately getting medication to support me with the diagnosis. So, back in October, I saw a video on YouTube. The video was by Mel Robbins. I watched it because I click on anything that Mel Robbins puts out. And it was about how she had been diagnosed late in life with ADD. I didn't think it had anything to do with me. I thought it would be interesting to see what she deals with. But as she described the things that she deals with, I began to recognize myself. It was like she was telling my story. She made a point that many times women go underdiagnosed with ADD because the symptoms don't present in the way that people classically think of ADD, which is the kid who can't stay in their seat, the kid who has, outbursts of things that things they want to say that they just can't hold in. None of that applied to me. But what I found through following up and doing research was that women many times present with symptoms that very much describe me, which is disorganization, time blindness, which means you can't remember when something is due on a certain date. You can't remember if you have a meeting at 1 o'clock. You just completely lose track of time in many ways, shapes, and forms. Also, just basically driftiness, like inability to focus on the task at hand. Yes. And also just very, very intense struggles with the daily routines of life that other people seem to handle so effortlessly. So, as part of the process of being diagnosed, I had to tell several people anecdotes that would be instances of things that had happened to me or that I had done throughout my life that might indicate that I had ADHD. So I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna make myself very vulnerable here and tell anybody who's watching this the ways that I have messed up in life that I thought made me lazy, a bad person, someone who didn't care about the people around me the way that I thought that I did. But in truth, were actually a condition. And side note, you cannot imagine the emotional relief finding out that all of these things can be explained by a condition and it's something that I can get support and help with. Unbelievable. And that kind of relief is what I'm hoping that I might pay it forward and bring to someone else who sees this video. So I'm going to tell you examples from my life that were ways that I knew that I might have ADD. Your examples may be completely different, but if you're like me, you'll listen to these and you'll be like, oh yeah, I may not have done that exact thing, but I sure recognize a kernel of a seed. So first of all, just complete inability to keep track of homework when I was going to school, all the way from elementary school up through college. This did not ultimately affect my grades. Women often go underdiagnosed with ADD because many times they have strong academic abilities, and so their abilities compensate for their ADD symptoms. So with family support and with just basically torturing myself, I was able to succeed in school, but it was a nightmare, a real nightmare. To the point that, I kind of have like PTSD. At this age, so many years past school, I still have nightmares that I have homework due and I didn't write it down and I didn't get it done. So now, having a job, being a novelist, a writer, which is a job that in many ways is like having homework most days, you can imagine ADD has affected that. Because it's difficult for me to focus, I have often joked with other writers that there's two parts to writing, the writing and the focus, and I love the writing, but I hate the focus. And that was before I even knew that about ADD or anything. So the only way that I have been able to manage it is by doing incredibly short sprints. If you're not familiar with what sprints are, it's when you do focused writing for a certain period of time and then you take a break. When I first read about this, I read about people doing 25-minute sprints and then taking a 5-minute break. And I said, oh my God, if I could focus for 25 minutes straight, I probably wouldn't be looking for a method to help me focus right now. So honestly, the only method of sprints that I have ever been able to use consistently and get to work is writing 100 words at a time, which takes about 2 or 3 minutes, and then taking a 2 or 3 minute break. And doing that over and over and over so many times, honestly, it's incredibly difficult, but it was the only way that I could force myself to get the work done. Now that makes it sound like I don't like being a writer or I don't like writing. And that is one of the paradoxes of ADD, is that I actually love writing. I love the stories. I love putting the words together when I can make my brain be there. I love having written and putting a book out in the world and getting people's reactions to it. I love being a writer. I hate, or should I say, I have a real inability to get myself to focus. But don't feel bad about that, because that's all changing now with tools and medications. So here's another example. In the 2nd grade, I was tested for the GATE program. That's what they in my school district called the Gifted and Talented Education Program. So that's how I was doing in school in the 2nd grade. Just 1 year earlier in the 1st grade, my teacher had wanted to hold me back a year and have me tested for special ed, and told my parents that she thought I was incapable of learning. And the only difference between those 2 years was that in the 1st grade, my desk was right next to the place where reading groups were. So all day long, I was fighting, having to try to focus on the worksheets I was supposed to be doing while there were stories going on in my ear. And it did not matter how badly I wanted to do that worksheet. It did not matter how badly I wanted to avoid the consequence of my teacher being very angry with me for not having gotten it done. I could not do it. And to me, that was one of the features that really let me know that this was a condition and not just laziness. Because in the face of mounting consequences, I still could not force myself to do things. Okay, so recently I moved. There's a project for work that is very important. I have a binder that has all the relevant information to the work I've done on that project. Why I decided to keep every single relevant detail about a very important work project on paper in one place, a binder, versus on a computer in the cloud, I don't know, but I did. So when I moved, you would think that's something that you would want to pick up and hand carry to the new place. Put it in a very secure location so you would know where to find it. Nope. when I got to the new place and everything was all moved in and I realized I did not know where that binder was, it precipitated a mad search through every bin and box piled up in my apartment. And I did find it. Apparently I had just tossed it into some random bin as if it were no different than like a shirt I haven't worn in 2 years. Like, that's the kind of thing that I have never understood why I do these things, and yet was completely incapable of making myself stop doing them. Okay, so I had a dog. I used to have a dog, the love of my life, Hercules. He had cancer. I had to give him his meds on a very precise schedule for about 2.5 months. That's about how long he survived after diagnosis. And that is probably the only time in my life that I have ever been able to keep things on track for a consistent, sustained period of time. But that was because I was terrified from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to sleep, and probably even while I was asleep. Every single day of his illness, I was so scared that I was going to mess it up that, like, literally months of sustained terror is the only way that I could keep track of his medication. And when he passed away, even though I was devastated, like, I can't even explain in words how devastated, there was a small part of me that was relieved that he was beyond the point where I could hurt him with my carelessness and my forgetfulness. And the last story that I will tell is when I was 15, I wanted my driver's license so bad. So bad. Not only did I love the idea of actually having the driver's license and being able to drive around, but I was really invested in this concept of being a real teenager. And to me, a real teenager had a license and they tool around town in their car and they went cruising. And I had been waiting for that moment for years. So when my dad was out teaching me to drive, he at one point turned to me, as you would if you had a kid as drifty as I was. I'm not saying my dad did anything wrong. This is exactly what he should have said to me. But so he turned to me and in an incredibly serious way said, "Melanie, when you are driving, it is not a game. You cannot drift. You have got to pay attention. You could kill someone." And honestly, that scared me so bad that I did not get my license till I was almost 18, because I just thought, man, if the only thing standing in between me and killing someone is my ability to make myself not drift, I'm definitely gonna kill someone. But I never have, just to set your mind at ease. And I actually found when I did start driving, and I found that this is true for a lot of people with ADD, that driving is a very mentally engaging activity for whatever reason. And so it's very easy for me to stay focused while I'm driving. And in fact, one of the things that I love to do to relax is to go on long drives out in the country. But yeah, so if any of those, I just thought of another story. This happened between Shawna and I just not even a week before I saw this Mel Robbins video and decided to start pursuing a diagnosis. So I have a dog now, Pepper. She's on some medication for just her fur kind of falls out, and so it's to keep her fur sort of lush and full. I had missed a couple doses, and Shawna was exasperated with me. And so I said to her, "Shawna, it's not because I don't care enough. It's if I had a doctor's appointment and the doctor said to me, 'Melanie, you have to take these 2 pills a day at 12-hour intervals for the rest of your life, and the first time you miss a dose, you will die.' how long do you think that I would last? And she kind of sighed. She's like, I don't know, probably about a week. And I don't know that that's not accurate. Like, I mean, honestly, I think that's a pretty decent estimation. So tomorrow we'll put, this is all of the ways that the ADD has plagued me in my life so far. But tomorrow is the good part of the video, the light at the end of the tunnel part of the video, where I talk about the process of getting a diagnosis, the process of getting prescribed medication, and how in just the short amount of time that I have had some new tools for dealing with ADD and some new medication, how my work life and work day has changed. So see you tomorrow for part 2 of this video.